Hello there everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be playing with some of the new Simon Hurley Create. And so I've got the Purrfect cats. That seemed to be the one that everybody was like, you need to play with that one. And I want to play with everything, but we've got our Purrfect cats. We also have our floral borders, and I'm going to make 2 cards for you today using the same color palette. I love all the little cats in this set, so I wanted to find a way to use all of them. So what better way than to make a background with all of them? Obviously, you all know that I'm quite partial to the Siamese, but I absolutely had to use all of the cats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up the very center. I put them all onto my MISTI. So they're all hanging off of the edge, or some of them are hanging off the edges, so that we can make our background. I started off by inking up the very middle of that group of stamps using Tropical Tango, and once I stamped it on there, I kind of cleaned up the edges so that they weren't so stark, and now I'm just going to kind of clean off those edges a little bit more. On that one side, we're going to bring in some Triple Berry, and I'm going to just kind of pounce the edge as well, so that will be not quite so harsh either. The other edge, we're going to be using some Slippery When Wet, once again bringing in my microfiber cloth and cleaning off those edges. I want that to overlap a little bit. The great thing, or one of the many great things about Simon Hurley Create inks, is that when you combine them, they create new colors, especially if you pay attention to color theory there. So putting that Tropical Tango over this Slippery When Wet will give you a little bit of a green, and putting it over the top of that Triple Berry will just kind of give you a more purpley blue-green tone. It's really pretty, and I love the way the background turned out. So now I'm going to stamp out a couple of different sentiments. We've got how old, or you're how old, and you've got to be kidding me. And then I'm going to use this one solid little kitten, and we're going to ink him up with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. He didn't stamp great the first time. That was my bad. I just didn't use enough pressure, so I stamped him again. And then I'm going to take some of the butterflies in the set, and we're going to fill in just a couple of the little areas in there just to fill in the space. That's all I want to do. So I've brought in all 3 of those colors again, and just kind of stamping those butterflies down using those colors where they, would be that color. So I only did it 4 times, but it sort of fills in those gaps just a little bit. And then I can use the matching die for the one little kitten, and we'll run that through our die cutting machine. And then I'm going to use my guillotine trimmer on our sentiments so that I can trim those down to put those on top. Now, to be honest with you, at first I wasn't sure how I wanted those sentiments to be played out on there. So I'm going to play around with placement just a little bit. I'm using the plastic piece on my guillotine trimmer to, trim everything down, try to give even borders. So yeah, here I am playing around with those sentiments, seeing how I'm going to put those on there. Eventually, I decide I don't like the white on the white, so I am going to bring in some of my craft cardstock. This is a cardstock that I'm actually going to use for the bases as well, the bases for both of my cards. And so I'll restamp those sentiments, and then I'm going to use some adhesive foam strips on the back of our sentiments. And then we'll trim those down. I'll use that same foam adhesive on the back of our kitten as well. I just love how he kind of stands out a bit against those cats that are all stamped on the background. And then we can trim down our sentiments a little bit more. I decided I wanted a bit of an angle cut, so I'm going to trim those down. I'm keeping it long, but I am going to trim them down. And then those are going to kind of hang off the edges as well, which I think is fine. And then we'll have our little kitten sitting on top of there. And then I can make my bases, which again is that same craft cardstock that was measured 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. And I'll do 2 of those because we're making 2 cards. Then I will use some glue to attach down this panel to the base. Now you noticed I did have that stamped on the back there. I didn't do a very good job of making sure that nothing had shifted, and so we did have a little bit of like blurring. So we just flipped it over and restamped. Didn't think you necessarily needed to see that whole process. You can tell that I trimmed down my paper the panel itself was 4 inches by 5.5 inches. So it does leave a little bit of that craft border on both the left and right hand side. And then I'm going to take my sentiment and stamp that on the inside so that we have "Hope your birthday is perfect." And then I will take the Siamese and stamp him on the inside as well. We're just using that same VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink for both the sentiment and our kitten. And then that's going to finish off the first card that we make. So happy with how that turned out. Now for the second one, I'm going to take out the insides of my MISTI. We'll use our magnets to hold down another piece of cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5.25 inches. So it'll be slightly smaller than an A2 size card. I'm going to use the same colors. We've got our Tropical Tango. That is going to be for our floral border, and that's stamped beautifully. Red rubber always does. And then I'm going to stamp my Siamese because you know I had to do some Siamese, right? And we're going to ink him up actually with some Weeping Willow. Perfect. He's going to look like my Max. So then I'm going to bring in some Copic markers. And again, another amazing thing about the Simon Hurley Create inks is that you can use your alcohol markers over the top of them. That is a fabulous touch, right? I love that. So I'm just going to use a couple different colors. And now he looks perfectly like my sweet little Max. Maybe my Max has a little more junk in the trunk. He's definitely, we call him my juicy little pear. Or as my son would lovingly call him, the juice. And then I'm going to bring in the matching die that goes along with this image. And we're going to die cut him out so that I can put him on the front of our card. I'll just tack that down with a little bit of mint tape. And then we'll have him all ready to go for the front of our card. Again, we're going to stamp our sentiment on some of that craft cardstock using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I got to do a little something on that background. So we did trim that down, that sentiment down, the same way we did the others. I'm going to take in those butterflies again, and we're going to just stamp a few of those on that background using our Triple Berry and our Slippery When Wet. Again, just trying to stick to that same color palette. I love doing that. I love taking a color palette and then trying to make several cards using that same color palette. I feel like that just, I don't know, you make a set of cards that way. Take a stamp set, take a, your same color palette, and you can have fun just challenging yourself to make several cards. And then we're going to pop our little cat and our sentiment down using those same foam strips. But that's going to finish off our cards for you today. I really do like how these turned out. I am not done with this set. I definitely want to do more with it. But I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.